I remember they were throwing paper in the air and it was just this mayhem. I looked at him, I said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, you know, this is where they work, this is what they do. This is what happens every day.
I was just like thrilled. I was like, this is something I'd never seen before, you know, eyes got wide. I was like,
Everybody looked like they were in a riot, but there was some kind of order to it, and I just had to be part of it.
From that moment, I went literally back to my workplace and gave 2 weeks' notice without having a contact, without knowing how I was going to get on the floor. I just knew this was where I needed to be. I needed to be on the floor.
The biggest pits in the world are here in Chicago. The Chicago Mercantile, the Board of Trade, Board Option Exchange, even the Chicago Stock Exchange. There's no place else that you have 9,000 pit traders all in one city. Nowhere else in the world.
this is the bastion of capitalism. Player of railroads of the nations, stacker of wheat, hog butcher of the world. That's what we do here. You know, if Chicago's known for anything else, let it be the trading capital of the world. This is LaSalle Boulevard, all the way down. Summertime, it's absolutely beautiful. All the trees full up. This is where trading started.
I mean, why do we have so many traders here? I think it really is an entrepreneurial spirit, and it's a very competitive environment. I know the guys on the trading desks in New York are also very competitive, but it's not physical. Chicago, it's physical.
It was based on gentlemen's rules. It was based on integrity, honesty, mutual respect. But the business in the pit was the furthest thing from gentlemen's rules. I mean, you saw the worst in everyone.
When you're standing there and somebody spits on your face, that, you know, somebody gets inadvertently stabbed with a pen, or somebody steps on your foot or spits on you, like I said, and it's like something that you don't even really address. It's like completely, you're immune to it. It's like, it's silent, it's quiet in the chaos.
The physicality in the pit was ridiculous. We got to the point where at times the pit was so physical that before the start of the opening bell, we could pick our feet up off the ground and not fall.
August Doyle! 29 Kyle Stern. Eddie! Eddie! Peter, Cardinal on that one. 75!
The open outcry process is, you know, 80% bravery. I mean, it's a perspiration game. You have to have nerve.
Some are brilliant, some are totally eccentric, some are totally nerdy, some are just flagrant jerks.
At the Board of Trade, the interview process that I had to become a member, and I remember the one question they asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to make a lot of money and leave.
You never found an ad in the paper. You know, it was all people who trusted you. Found a friend of the family, got you on there because you were sharp or you had potential.
I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. My older brother's 4 years older than me. He'd already been trading maybe for about a year or so, and he thought I'd be really interested in it. I played sports in college, and my brother said that trading in general is kind of like sports, you know, and when the bell goes off, boom. Like throwing a touchdown pass in Michigan Stadium with 100,000 people with the cheering. Just that adrenaline rush. I mean, it's insane. It's not a normal job. I mean, it's not a normal job where you're not getting a salary every 2 weeks. You don't have this health plan. You don't have your 401k. I mean, you have to do it yourself. When you've had a taste of the money, you don't want to go back to be in the corporate world. I mean, I just couldn't see myself working for a firm and just getting reamed on by a boss. Probably, I seriously, I'd probably tackle him or something. I'd be like, you know, who are you?
Hey, Chuck. This is Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's my acronym. This is my brother's first album, The Endless Summer. And I got it for, you know, colorful reasons.
You got your little groups. You got your Southsiders, you got your Northsiders, you got the Jewish clique, you got the Irish clique, you got the Italian clique. I'm Polish, I don't think we have a clique. You got to mesh and find your niche. There's a lot of uneducated people, which doesn't matter. You know, the uneducated people have a tendency too to make good money. When you're in there from 8:30 to 3:15, it's all about money. One guy's misery is one guy's, you know, profit. Sad to say, but that's true. Not that I take advantage of that, but maybe I would.
By the middle of the 19th century, Chicago was emerging as the transportation hub of America. Trade routes by rail and water converged on the city, giving birth to its famous stockyards and slaughterhouses, and a town hall market that would later become known as the world's first modern futures exchange. On April 3, 1848, 83 merchants founded the Chicago Board of Trade. Futures trading provided an opportunity for buyers and sellers to manage their risk against unpredictable price fluctuations. Too many cattle this year? Well, the beef prices are low. Drought in the Midwest? The corn prices go higher. If both the buyer and the seller can agree on a price ahead of time, we call this a futures contract. This agreement allows them the opportunity to protect themselves against paying too much or selling for too little. So who are all these guys yelling and screaming, and what are they doing? As the exchange grew in popularity, at times there'd be more sellers than buyers, or a demand with no one there to meet it. Entrepreneurs saw an opportunity to take advantage of this imbalance, working in the middle as both buyer and seller. This allowed them to profit by speculating with their own money while filling a vital need for market liquidity, or the ease with which goods can be bought or sold in the marketplace. These early speculators became known as local traders. As their role expanded over time, they became major players on the trading floor. In 1981, the Chicago exchanges introduced metals, energy, currencies, bonds, and stock indexes, attracting more interest than ever before. Soon calls were coming in from all over the world. The modern local trader might trade hundreds, if not thousands, of contracts in a single day, often getting in and out of trades in seconds, each time risking their own money in the hopes of profiting as they hold their own against the expanding market.
It was a live auction
40 on 2.
where the price of the commodity that you were trading was determined by who would pay the highest and who would sell it at the lowest price. When I would pay 5 and someone else would be willing to sell it at 5, we would have a match. We would acknowledge it, check it in the pit by saying, you know, I bought so many contracts from you at this price, and then we'd write it on our cards. We'd end up handing in our cards to our clerks, and the clerks would take it to our clearinghouse.
Yellow coats were designated for clerks. Other than that, all the different colors and different designs that you see down there was to make you stand out among the crowd. There were guys that had checkered jackets, red, white, and blue jackets. Anything that made you stand out in your area of the pit because you needed to be seen.
It's a misunderstanding that traders manipulate the price, that they're responsible for prices going up or down, and it's completely false. The supply and demand drives that. If there's too little supply and demand is high, well, prices are going up. If there's too much supply and demand is flat, prices are going down. The traders are just in the middle. All they're doing is catching something for a tenth of a penny and passing it on hundreds or thousands of times a day.
It's actually funny because when you first come down here, it's overwhelming. You can't figure anything out. And quickly you kind of discover, well, that guy's a broker, and he's an order filler, and well, he's a big trader. All of a sudden people take on this personality, so you get an idea of what's happening. Well, then you get some confidence and some arrogance, and you decide that you're going to do this because you've been practicing and you think you can do it. Well, that's really when the learning starts. Because that's when you realize how incredibly complex and oftentimes scary and difficult and hard it is. These guys are professionals, every one of them.
Each and every day to go in there, trade your own rent money, not know whether you're going to make money or not, is terrifying to a lot of people. And I found it to be very, very scary.
I don't have any clients. I don't have any customers. And it dawns on you, nobody trusts you to do what you do except your family. And so in a lot of ways, I'm a hedge fund manager of my own family's worth, money. And they trust me not to fuck up.
The nature of trading is buying for one price and trying to sell it at a better price, period. You get in there, you make your first trade. You know, if you get whacked 10 times in a row, you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you do it again.
We started at 7:20. By 7:30, we were dripping wet of sweat. Fortunes had been made and lost in the first 10 minutes.
Everybody had their ups and downs. I had bigger swings due to the size I traded.
It really depends on how much you put on. A five-tick day, a five move from 1 to 6, you can make millions of dollars depending on how much you put on. 100 lot, if you put 100 lot on in the euro dollars, it's worth $2,500, okay? There are guys that have 2,000 lots on. So, you're talking about $200,000 a move, one tick. So it moves 5 ticks, you're up $1 million. If it goes 5 ticks against you, you're down $1 million.
If you traded a few contracts at a time, your risk was limited. If you went and took on the market and bought everything available, your risk was enormous. There were traders that went into the pit every day and risked a house.
You know, it wasn't unusual for guys to be making 20, 30 grand a day. It wasn't unusual for them to be losing 10, 20, 50,000 a day. And a lot of times you did that on one trade.
Whether people like to admit it or not, this is a form of gambling. How is it not? If you buy a stock, you're buying the idea that that stock's going up, right? I mean, that's what we do, and options are the same way. I mean, there is a gambling mentality to what we do down there. It's gambling to go down there every day because you are risking something.
But the rewards were phenomenal. If you took the biggest risk, you're either going to get crushed or you're going to be the happiest man on campus this afternoon.
I think somebody once said that floor trading offered blue-collar guys a chance to get in with the big boys. Commodity trading only has 2 purposes. 1, to make a lot of money. 2, to manage a lot of money. And the faster you make big money, the faster you can do things with your life. And I think that's what it's allowed me to do. The numbers for successful guys are fleeting because you're only as good as your last trade. It's what you don't lose. It really is. I mean, there's been guys who've made more money than me, but for some reason or another, it was taken away. And so I think the more successful trader is the guy who can keep it for, you know, to the 10th, to the 9th race.
The good traders know when to make money and leave.
I tell you, I went to work every day. And when I wasn't at work, I was a miserable human being. I mean, without a doubt, I wanted to be back at work because I knew how much money you could make. And so when I go away on vacation, it didn't matter what I spent because I knew I was losing more not being at work, you know. And then somebody said, but you could be losing money. And I go, you know, you never think of it that way. Everything can be traced to being around the best traders in the free world. I would watch these guys trade in my pit, and I would say, if they're buying, I'm buying. If they're selling, I'm selling. But I also wanted to see, what was important to me, how they handle a loser. It's not what you make, it's what you don't lose that determines how much money you have at the end of the year. I would watch these bigger traders, and I go, how do they handle the stress of having a losing trade? What do they do when they had a losing trade?
I literally just learned by watching the most successful people in the world.
Certainly the numbers that come out of these places, how much money people make, can be staggering.
Yeah, my assistant, who's pretty junior, she makes a little bit more than my brother does. My brother's a cardiac anesthesiologist. My assistant is 3 years out of college and likes to drink beer.
You had a bunch of young kids making more money than they knew what to do with, and they found things to do with it. You know, I mean, anything that you can think of that you could abuse yourself with, that was part of the lifestyle. There were 5 guys that rented a bus to take them to Michigan golfing. They hired a couple girls to go on the bus with them. And by the time it wasn't me. I want that out.
My primary over-the-counter customer base was made up of traders. They're fun guys. They're just fun to be around, and they're also, they're nuts. They're crazy. I had a customer who, I rang him up and it was $172. He said, what kind of number is that, $172? Make it 100 or 200, one or two. I said, well, which should I make it? And he said, I don't know, let's flip a coin. So I flipped a coin, he called it, he lost $200. We did this. Every time he came in, for 3 years, he never won. We had customers flipping coins. He wanted to inspect coins. He never won. Every time. It was like 2 or 3. I'd just say, what do you want to make the spread? He would do that. He never won. Every time he would overpay, he'd take the money out of his pocket, slam it on the counter, and leave. Loved the game. Loved the game.
Joey called me and said he wanted me to deliver some cigars over to the pit and that he'd meet me there. And he told me to bring 100. So I went over there and he met me and brought me onto the floor. And I knew a lot of the guys because I was doing business with them. Some guys across the pit were like going like this to me. And so Joe said, they want a cigar. Throw a cigar to them. So I reach in the box and I throw a cigar across the pit, and the guys are reaching up and grabbing the cigars. So I threw them everywhere. I was just throwing cigars all the way across the pit. And whoever it is that's responsible for security in the pit or whatever it is came up to me. And as he approached me, he said, I'm the guy who's supposed to throw you out of here. And he said, but I'm not going to. Can I have a cigar? You know, every afternoon, the bond close, we would all prepare for it. It's like, okay, you know, bond close is hitting. When you watch those guys coming off the floor, I mean, you could see their moods. You could tell good days, bad days, you got, you know, like life-changing days. We saw those days. But it was palpable. I mean, this was not like, you know, 5 o'clock and everybody punches out and walks out of the office.
Every time you make money trading, it's like applause, but only you hear it. because everybody else in that pit is rooting against you. You're competing next to folks for every single trade, and the fastest person, whoever says, buy them, whoever says that first gets the trade. And you know your neighbor sitting right here next to you needs them as bad as you need them. He needs to make his mortgage payment. He needs to put the kids through school, but you're going to bury him. You'll tear out his liver because you heard that broker say sold, and that guy is right there next to you. He needs them, and you just said, buy them. And he said, how many did I get? And you're like, none.
Good friend of mine said long ago, he said, if you want a friend, get a dog. You don't have friends in the pit.
Most of the people can set aside their differences outside of business. But sometimes when the almighty dollar gets involved, people don't care.
I've seen guys yell and scream and say nasty things, ungodly things. That's what helps them trade. Yeah, and they probably don't like you anyway. True, that's true. They probably truly don't like you. There's no doubt about that. You know, if they had a chance to, they would hit you if they could.
There will be fights in the pits. You know, no one's proud of that, but you will see people go at it.
There was a lot of fighting over who did the trade. Did you do it, or did the guy next to you trade with me? One guy thought that he made the market. Someone took his trade. Finally, the guy lost his cool, ran over, and bit the guy in the nose.
I was just under 6'3" and weighed 255 pounds, and I had little guys that would come up and berate me. Guys would literally look at you and say, you're a fucking idiot. I can't believe you do that fucking trade. You'd look at them and go, you gotta be kidding me. First of all, it was a good trade. That's why you're mad. And second of all, shut up.
And I think the guys that want to strangle you after every trade, you kind of enjoy that. And you want to do that again and again, because that means you're doing something right.
That was the famous line on Chicago was, you want to meet out by the horse, because we have this great big horse statue that sits out front, and that's where everybody would, if they would actually go down, they would have a group of hundreds following them.
I look at him, he looks at me, he goes, yeah, let's go fucking outside. So we're walking out, and the motherfucker turns around and cracks me right in the fucking face, hard. I go, a real fucking fight, huh? He swings at me again, and I duck, and his hand goes through the fucking window. And the blood is spurting out like a geyser. He goes, Mike, take me to the hospital. I look at him, I go, I think it's fucking too late. A lot of us have come from no education backgrounds, really, other than high school. You know, we all started trading young. Nobody knew anything. I made like $2.5 million in 5 days of trading. It's a pure business in theory, but you know, when there's so much money and things like that laying around, you know, you actually see what somebody's really like. And to go in there and try to be somewhat pure, and that's what I think I am. I'm a pure trader, but I love the trading, but I hate the people. These are fun. This thing's on rollers. So you know you're twisted when you do shit like this. You got problems. They're so big, you can't believe it till you come up to them and see how big an animal is. You know, they think, oh, it's a giraffe. Everything's dangerous in Africa. Everything. Because everything's used to being eaten. When I go there, there's always stories of somebody dying or getting murdered by some animal all the time. See, they give you a list of, they call it a menu. It's got animals on it, and next to it are price tags. So you look at something. It's like when you go out, you say, okay, there's $2,000, there's $1,000. As you shoot something, like we scope our rifles in on baboons because they're only $50. Lion hunt was a ripoff. It's like the fucker, they let the thing out of the fucking cage and I shot it. That's the feeling I had. Yeah, it wasn't right. Well, the rhino was the complete opposite. I always said it was the last time I was happy when I got charged by that rhino. Yeah, it's just not any fun, unless you can die. But you need the heavy caliber for those big animals. Oh, it's such a gas shooting this thing. Wesley Richards. Oh, fun. The beauty of hunting is that it doesn't involve the merc, doesn't involve my partners. It's just me and something that wants to get away from me. In this business, you have to be a street kid and a business person because there's too much money involved. 25 years of trading, it is really a living hell if you're not one of them. And I've never been one of them. The whole power of the 150 years of the futures industry in Chicago, which where it started, has always been the broker. The broker is the one that has the orders that come in for all outside customers. If you're in with that guy, you can count on making a living every day of your life. It's a game. You know, it's who you know, who you grew up with, who you married, who's your friend, all that shit. I would have been way more successful, way more. I couldn't even tell you if I could bite my tongue and learn to play the game a little more. Like dress like this every day when I'm in my 20s. Fuck. I was a fucked up little jagoff. Look at this, motherfuckers. The beauty of trading when it's really going, it's a rhythm. You're just doing your thing. Problem is when it slows down sometimes, you start thinking why I should do this trade, why I should buy these, why I should sell that. And anytime anybody thinks, you're usually pretty fucked. I call the market a big whore. The market is a whore. It's out to fuck as many people as it can. That's its job.
It may not go against you fast at first, so you'll take a little heat, because it'll go against you a little bit, and then all of a sudden it goes a little more and a little more, and you kind of get like it feels like a hypnotism sort of thing, where you get caught in this downward spiral. You know it's a loser. You've confirmed that it's a loser. Just sitting there looking at the prices go further and further against you, and it just feels almost like sometimes you can't get out.
Say you're down like $12,000. You're like, I should walk out of here. I should realize, I'm past my limit and walk out of here. What's the next thing you do? You're like, well, what the hell? Just, I'll buy a couple more. And then wham, it goes again. And the thing that goes through your head is like, all right, how much am I losing right now? There goes a car. There goes a house. It's like someone hitting you in the balls, never ending. It's like wham, wham. It's like, okay.
Nobody can get you down the amount of money that you're going to be down the day. Only you can do that. And it's funny when you see something happen to somebody else.
It's very, very public. And so those guys that saw you lose money will probably, twist that knife in your side and say, boy, they looked pretty good an hour ago, didn't they, Pete?
It's a vindictive crowd. It really is.
There's a joke that we always used to say when you go on the floor, you've got the scan card, you've got to scan your way in. Well, if you scan it and you look down and the light's red, the guy behind you is like, ooh, bad day yesterday? Or how you looking there? You're like, oh, no, it's good. You're like, come on. And it goes green. You're like, all right, yes. They're alive for another day.
There were a lot of times when the markets got very volatile that you wouldn't see a guy the next day. And you knew he lost what he could lose.
Valentine's Day, 1994. I had a little position on in the yen. The Japanese and the Americans were trying to make a trade deal, and they kept extending the deadline. And finally, they said, there's not going to be a deal. So when we walked in on that Monday, our market was limit up. So that position immediately was like 40,000 against me. And it was rallying. That's $1,000 a point. So every time it rallied 1 point higher, I lost another $1,000. Well, it rallied 100 points. It was $150,000. It was pretty crushing, the feeling of despair where, oh my God, I've lost everything. We had basically moved back in with my parents. Ready? Tee number 1. think we should walk over this way. So I went out and got a job as a clerk, making, you know, $400 a week. At one point, my wife was drunk and, you know, she said, "Yeah, you're nothing but a fucking clerk." I think she really expected bigger and better things. Okay, I'll play that one. What's really nice is when the weather's a little warmer, but it's too cold for everybody else, you get the whole course to yourself. When the split came, it was pretty devastating for me. I hugged my kids. That kind of kept me going. That was like, well, I can't just give up now because they're depending on me. All I know is that when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a dad. From the earliest childhood, you know, I had a lot of brothers and I wanted to be a father. You know how to use that? Okay. Well, you just go to the bank and put it in, punch in that number when it asks. It's going to ask you what you want to do. You want to checking, withdrawal, and then punch in the number, how much. Okay? When you put the card in, you put the card in and you take it out. You know, just leave it in there.
Can I cash with that too?
With the card? Mm-hmm. No, get cash and pay cash.
Okay.
All right?
When I was in preschool, he came in and spoke to our class, I remember. And he just had everyone stand up and yell as loud as they could. And that was basically what I figured he did all day. I didn't really know.
It's rough. Our markets are real thin, and it was just a tough week. By the end of the week, I was asking people, you know, how are you doing? How's it going in there for you? And every one of them was just like, it's brutal. It's brutal in there. I'm on with 3 brokers, so I have 1 broker on my right, 1 on my left, and I'm on the headset with a 3rd broker. Sometimes I have to flip the headset and say, hey, you know, can you hang on a second? I'm getting my asshole ripped open right here. I'll get right back to you as soon as I get, you know, it's like that. The lottery is like $320 million right now. So I bought a ticket for that. When I played lottery before, when I was married before, I always would buy the ticket thinking, you know, I really hope that I don't win, because I felt like it would change my life. I just felt like it would change my life to where I wouldn't be happy. Well, I'll take the chance now.
And you will have a big loss. And it's how fast did you cut your losses when you started to incur those big losses, and then hopefully you didn't have something like a drug addiction, an alcohol addiction, which break traders down.
And there was an incident where somebody had dropped drugs, and everybody's looking at it, and nobody would pick it up because nobody wanted to, you know, be incriminated by what was going on. So everybody's sitting there looking at the drugs, nobody would pick it up.
Drugs and alcohol is a horrible stereotype of this business. I think that the high-strung type A people, you know, gravitate towards that, whether it's this industry or the sports industry or the film industry or, you know, insurance. It doesn't matter. I mean, those people, I think, you know, that's a functionality of the personality, not necessarily the industry.
You know they hate me at the Merc, by the way. All I know is when I first walk in, every mother, can I say fucker, has a Rolex on their hand. And it's like, and I'm like, I'm looking at it. And that's all I could think about when I first started trading. Everybody's got more on their wrist than I got in my account. I thought it was just like, you know what, I could beat these guys. And I swear to God that 99% still don't get it. When you win, you start betting less. Bet more. I mean, there's one roll that you can make $100,000 off. Let it ride. If you roll 3 6s in a row, let it ride. Let it, the winner's ride. Money gets you super checks. I'm talking, I fucked the playmate. Isn't that what every guy's fucking dream is? Right? The other thing about trading is just don't lose money. When you lose money, it changes everything. You can't keep going losing money and expect to live the same life. Somehow God or somehow some spiritual thing just whacks you. Or you want to buy something expensive because you've made it, and you've made enough money to buy it. You start losing every day. You buy a house, you can't make any money anymore. You go on an expensive vacation, but as soon as you say you're over the hump, I don't know.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with
I didn't have to. Make money every day.
Did you make money every day?
For a long time, yes.
Did you, what happened? You don't trade now. Do you trade now?
Cut.
I remember seeing 2 or 3 grown men on the steps of the pit at the end of a crazy day in October of '87 crying. And I mean, that leaves a heck of an impression. These were the men that, you know, they could do no wrong. They were there first. They were some of the pioneers. They had built huge fortunes, and they were just the wrong way on a day where it mowed them down.
Because of what can happen and how much money they can lose at a rapid pace, the stress level was too much for some of the guys who actually took their own lives. And these guys were married with kids. So you're talking about enormous amounts of stress, and they just couldn't look their wife in the eyes anymore, or their children, and it's pretty brutal, really brutal.
A couple months ago, I told myself I'm leaving the floor. I definitely want to leave the floor. My overhead is insane. My gross profit was always growing, and then just over the past year, last year, for example, less than half of what I made the year before. 8:30 opens, like the stock exchange, everything, all cash opens at 8:30. The trade was at 7:30 because the unemployment number came out at 7:30, and so I missed that move, which if I was on the computer, I would have had a chance of trading the number and probably been done at 8 o'clock. Instead, you know, I got to stick around and wait for a move later on in the day, hopefully. We're obviously going computer, whether it's, you know, tomorrow or, you know, a couple months from now, I don't know. You can just tell by my coat, too. It's faded just like the floor.
There isn't this floor trader presence like there was. It used to be that there was a couple thousand guys, I don't know the numbers, that were trading in the pits.
We had as much as 500 people in the pit when I was there in the 80s. Now there may be 50 guys in the pit. And a lot of the business has gone to electronic trading.
The internet became very commonplace in the 90s. And the speed at which the information was learned by all players in the marketplace became so fast, everyone got all the information at the same time.
The trading industry started to go with the information industry and went side by side with that. They wanted to be able to trade instantly when the news came out.
And as they've leveled the playing field, the people in the pits have lost a lot of their advantage.
The computer brings in so much girth that there is no need for individuals to bring liquidity anymore.
Well, in the old days, it would trade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and a lot of trading would take place between 5 and 10. Nowadays, the market instantaneously changes price from 5 to 10, and there's nothing in the middle. And as the markets have gotten more sophisticated, the customers know where things should trade.
The traders in the pit that just bought and sold in a short-term buy here, looking to sell it in the next few seconds at a better price, those people, the opportunities aren't there like they used to be in the pits.
You could see it in the NASDAQ.